Gentleman yields back. The chairman now recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
Secretary Clinton, to get to the truth about Benghazi, we need the complete record. Your emails are part of the record, and we believe the record might be incomplete, in part because your version of events surrounding your email situation keeps changing. Last month, on September 20th, you said, quote, "I'm being as transparent as possible, more transparent than anybody else ever has been." You didn't say more transparent than anybody. You said more transparent than anybody else ever.
That's factually incorrect.
Now, my definition of transparency includes being honest and straightforward, and being honest and straightforward right from the start, right from the get-go. So let's look at a few things that you said here in the last few months. On March 10th, you said this. You provided all work-related emails erring on the side of anything that might be a federal record.
That's factually incorrect.
In September, you revised that statement, and you said Mr. Blumenthal had some emails that you didn't. Of course, the revised statement was after we interviewed Mr. Blumenthal about Benghazi and found out that we didn't receive from you and the State Department the same information we received from him. In March, you said it was your practice to email government officials on their .gov accounts.
That's factually incorrect.
Later, you revised that statement, and you said there was a fraction of emails with work-related information sent to government officials on their personal accounts.
I'm sorry, but what does this have to do with what happened in Benghazi?
Of course.
When are we going to get there?
The gentleman is not recognized. The gentleman from Ohio controls the time.
And it has everything to do because we want the record so we can get to the truth. And maybe if the gentleman from Washington would have showed up for more than just 1 hour of one interview, he might know a little more about the situation as well and the lack of getting the record. Of course, this second statement, the revised statement, was after this committee had contacted Huma Abedin, Jake Sullivan, Philippe Reines, asking for their personal accounts, which of course you knew would mean we would get their emails. And that first statement in March was not accurate.
That's factually incorrect.
In March, you said no classified information was sent or received on your personal accounts.
That's factually incorrect.
You later revised your statement and said no information marked classified was sent or received on your personal account.
That's factually incorrect.
And once again, your revised statement was after the Inspector General for the intelligence community had examined your emails and determined that, yes, some indeed were classified. Secretary Clinton, seems like there's a pattern of change in your story. In March, you say one thing, the truth comes out, weeks and months later, you say something else. That's not being the most transparent person ever. That's not even being transparent. So, if your story about your emails keeps changing, then how can we accept your statement that you've turned over all work-related emails and all emails about Libya?
Well, Congressman, I have said repeatedly that I take responsibility for my use of personal email. I've said it was a mistake. I've said that it was allowed, but it was not a good choice.
That's factually incorrect.
When I got to the department, we were faced with a global financial crisis.
What are you babbling about?
Major troop decisions on Afghanistan, the imperative to rebuild our alliances in Europe and Asia, an ongoing war in Iraq, and so much else. Email was not my primary means of communication. As I have said earlier, I did not have a computer on my desk. I've described how I did work in meetings, secure and unsecure phone calls, reviewing many, many pages of materials every day, attending a great deal of meetings, and I provided the department, which has been providing you, with all of my work-related emails.
That's factually incorrect.
All that I had, approximately 55,000 pages, and they are being publicly released.
I appreciate it, and let's get into that. those 55,000 pages, there were 62,000 emails, total emails on your system. You have stated that you used a multi-step process to determine which ones were private, which ones were public, which ones belonged to you and your family, which ones belonged to the taxpayer. Who oversaw this multi-step process in making that determination, which ones we might get and which ones that were personal?
That was overseen by my attorneys, and they conducted a rigorous review of my emails. And
these are the folks sitting behind you there, Mr. Kendall, Ms. Mills,
yes,
Ms. Samuelson?
That's right.
All right. And you said rigorous. What does that mean?
It means that they were asked to provide anything that could be possibly construed as work-related. In fact, in my opinion, and that's been confirmed by both the State Department.
I'm asking how it was done. Did someone physically look at the 62,000 emails, or did you use search terms, date parameters? I want to know the specifics.
They did all of that, and I did not look over their shoulders because I thought it would be appropriate for them to conduct that search, and they did.
Will you provide this committee, or can you answer today? What were the search terms? The
search terms were everything you could imagine that might be related to anything, but they also went through every single email.
But that's not answering the question. What were the search terms? Search terms means terms. What terms did you use? What were the date parameters? What date did you start? What was the end date? And the emails in between there we're going to look at.
Well, Congressman, I asked my attorneys to oversee the process. I did not look over their shoulder. I did not dictate how they would do it. I did not ask what they were doing and how they made their conclusions.
You don't know what terms they used to determine which ones were your emails and which ones the State Department got and therefore we might get?
You know, the State Department had between 90 and 95% of all the ones that were work-related. They were already on the system. And
That's factually incorrect.
in fact, this committee got
I'm not asking about those. I'm asking about the 62,000 that were exclusively on your system.
90 to 95% of all work-related emails were already in.
Well, we know that the National Archivist, Secretary Clinton, we know the National Archivist said 1,250 were clearly personal. No way you should have sent them to the State Department. And then we also know that 15 you missed because we got those from Mr. Blumenthal when he came and was for his deposition.
Thank you.
So if you missed 15 you should have given us, and you gave us 1,250 that not we say, but the National Archivist says you never should have turned over. You erred on both sides. So again, that's why we want to know the terms, because if you've made a mistake both ways, you might have made more mistakes we don't know.
Well, first of all, you had 9 hours with one of my attorneys. And since I think the Democrats just finally released the transcript, I haven't had a chance.
And I specifically asked Ms. Mills.
Well,
I did. I asked her about this, and she gave me basically the same kind of answer you're giving me.
Well, she'll be happy to supplement the record.
But she's not on the witness stand today. You are, and I'm asking you.
Well, but I asked my attorneys to do it. I thought that was the appropriate way to proceed.
Let me do one other statement. Because it sounds like I hope you'll turn those. I hope we'll know the terms. I think the American people like to know what terms you used to determine what we might get, so that we could get all the information on Libya and find out what happened where these 4 Americans gave their lives. I think that's critical. In March, you also said this: your server was physically located on your property, which is protected by the Secret Service. Now, I'm having a hard time figuring this out because this story's been all over the place, but there was one server on your property in New York and a second server hosted by a Colorado company and housed in New Jersey. Is that right? There were 2 servers?
No. There was a server
Just
that
one?
was already being used by my husband's team, an existing system in our home that I used, and then later, again, my husband's office decided that they wanted to change their arrangements, and that's when they contracted with the company in Colorado.
And so there's only one server? Is that what you're telling me? And it's the one server that the FBI has?
The FBI has the server that was used during the tenure of my State Department service.
Okay. In your statement, you said which was protected by the Secret Service. Why'd you mention the Secret Service?
Well, because
here's what I'm thinking. Could a Secret Service agent standing at the back door of your house protect someone in Russia or China from hacking into your system? Why'd you mention the Secret Service agent?
Out of just an abundance of being transparent.
Transparent. What's the relevance to protecting from classified information?
There was nothing marked classified on my emails,
That's factually incorrect.
either sent or received, and I want to respond.
Use the right term there, use marked. Yeah, that's the one, that's
Well,
what you
but that's
use the revised statement there.
Well, Congressman, there was a lot of confusion because many Americans have no idea how the classification process works, and therefore I wanted to make it clear that there is a system within our government, certainly within the State Department, where materials that is thought to be classified is marked such so that people.
That any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
Have the opportunity to know how they are supposed to be handling those materials, and that's why it became clearer, I believe, to say that nothing was marked classified at the time I sent or received it.
All right, all I know is that's different what you said in March. I got one last question. The FBI's got your server. They're doing a forensic review of your server. They may recover emails that you deleted from your system. So, I didn't say this, you said it. You just said a little bit ago too, transparency. You said you were the more transparent than anybody else ever. So I want to ask you just one simple question. If the FBI finds some of these emails that might be deleted as they're reviewing your server, will you agree to allow a neutral third party, like a retired federal judge, to review any emails deleted to determine if any of them are relevant to our investigation?
Congressman, as you point out, there is a security inquiry being conducted by the Department of Justice, and I trust that they will do whatever is appropriate to reach their conclusions.
But would you, as the most transparent person ever, would you commit to saying, if whatever they find, I want a retired federal judge to evaluate that and look and see if we need some of that information to get to the truth?
I have been releasing my emails to the public. That is transparency, and as I stand by my statement, so far as I know, in the modern era, I am the only government official who's ever done that.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Gentleman's time has expired. The chair will now.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system.